My name is Emily, and I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My siblings Mike, Chris, Rachel, and Josh were so much older that I sometimes felt like I belonged to a different family. By the time I was old enough to form memories, they were already moving out, going to college, or starting their adult lives. It was like I was an afterthought, a weird tag-along they had to tolerate. Even so, I loved them. As the youngest, you look up to your older siblings like they're heroes. When I was little, I thought Mike hung the moon. He was the cool oldest brother who could do no wrong. Chris was quieter, more serious, but I adored him too. Rachel was my big sister, the one I hoped would let me into her world and show me how to be like her. Josh, the youngest of the older ones, was closest to me in age, but even he kept me at arm's length. The first time it really hit me that I didn't matter to them was at Mike's wedding. I was 10, that awkward age where you feel grown up enough to be included but young enough to be treated like a child. When Mike and his fiancée Sarah announced a child-free wedding, I assumed that didn't apply to me. I wasn't some random kid who'd throw food or scream during the vows. I was his sister. I was so excited, I even asked Mom if I could wear one of her necklaces for the big day. That's when she sat me down and said, "Mike and Sarah are having an adults-only wedding. Emily, you won't be able to come." I stared at her trying to process it. "But I'm not like other kids," I said, attempting to reason. "I'll be quiet, I promise." She patted my head like I was a puppy. "It's just for adults, sweetie. You'll understand when you're older." I didn't understand at all. I cried in my room for hours. Mike was my brother, and I wanted to see him get married, to watch Sarah, who I already saw as my sister, walk down the aisle. Instead, my parents left me with a babysitter. I remember staring at the clock that day, imagining everything I was missing. When Mike returned from his honeymoon, I hoped he'd bring it up, maybe apologize or share a funny wedding story. He didn't. He acted like I wasn't part of it, like I wasn't worth acknowledging. 2 years later, Chris got engaged. I was 12, older, quieter, and well-behaved. I didn't whine or make a fuss, and I made sure everyone knew it. So when they said his wedding was child-free too, I thought, okay, but this time I'll be invited. Nope, I got the same speech. Chris and his fiancée want an adults-only wedding, Emily. It's not personal. Not personal? It felt personal. How could it not when it happened twice? I tried not to cry this time. I was older and wanted to act mature. I didn't beg or scream. I just sat quietly while my parents made excuses. Mom even tried to comfort me. "You'll have your own wedding someday, and it'll be wonderful. You'll see." It didn't help. I was starting to realize my siblings didn't see me as family, not the way I saw them. When Rachel got engaged, I was 15, a full-on teenager desperate to feel included. At first, Rachel didn't plan on banning kids from her wedding. She wanted everyone there, but our aunts and uncles kept saying things like, "It's so refreshing to have a wedding without kids running wild, and children just make things chaotic." Eventually, Rachel caved. The rule became no one under 16. I was 15, so close it felt like a slap in the face. I went to Rachel and pleaded, "Can I be an exception? I'm your sister. I'll be quiet, I promise." She looked at me with a serious expression and said, "If I make an exception for you, what about the other kids?" "It wouldn't be fair." Fair? I lost it. "Are you kidding me?" I yelled. "It's not fair that I can't go to any of your weddings. I'm not just some kid, I'm your sister." That's when my parents got involved. I was grounded for 6 months for disrespecting Rachel and causing drama. 6 months. I spent most of that time in my room, stewing in anger and hurt. By the time Josh got engaged, I was 17. I didn't even bother asking. I knew I wouldn't be invited. Sure enough, the announcement came. Child-free wedding. I was numb to it by then. I didn't cry, yell, or ask why. I just accepted it. But what stung was that my cousin Amanda, who just turned 18, was invited. I heard about it through the family grapevine. Apparently 18 was the cutoff. The irony wasn't lost on me. Amanda was only a few months older, but she got to go because she'd hit the magical age of adulthood. When my parents asked why I didn't make a big deal about congratulating Josh, I shrugged. I sent him a quick text. "Congrats, hope it's a great day." Then I locked myself in my room like always. By that point, I'd started to check out emotionally. I realized I didn't matter to them. I wasn't their little sister. I was just a kid they barely thought about. It hurt, really, really hurt. Years passed after the last wedding, and I stopped trying to fit into my siblings' lives. I was exhausted, tired of being left out, tired of being the kid's sister no one cared about unless it was convenient. By the time I met my now fiancé, Tyler, I'd pretty much checked out of the family dynamic. I didn't expect much from anyone anymore. Tyler was the first person who truly listened when I told him about my family. I remember sitting on his couch explaining how I'd been excluded from 4 of my siblings' weddings. He looked genuinely shocked. Wait, they didn't invite you? Not even when you were, like, nope, I said, trying to act like it didn't hurt anymore. What the hell, you're their sister, he said, shaking his head. That's seriously messed up. That's when it hit me. It was messed up. For years, I'd convinced myself it was normal. A child-free wedding sounded reasonable on paper. It wasn't like I was being deliberately targeted, right? But no, 4 times my family chose to exclude me. Not one sibling thought, hey, Emily should be there. It wasn't normal. So, when Tyler and I got engaged a few years later, I knew one thing for sure. My wedding would be different. It would be filled with people who actually cared about me, who wanted to celebrate me, not just show up out of obligation. That's when I decided I wasn't inviting my siblings. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No angry letter or announcement in the family group chat. I simply left them off the guest list. I knew it would cause a stir eventually, but I'd deal with that when the time came. Trouble started about 2 months before the wedding. My mom called one afternoon, acting oddly chipper. I should have known something was up. So, Emily, she said in that tone she used when she wanted something. How are the wedding plans coming along? Good, I said cautiously. Everything's almost done. That's great, she replied, pausing before adding, your brothers and sister haven't gotten their invitations yet. Did you send them out already? My heart pounded. I wasn't ready for this conversation. Yeah, I sent them out, I said, trying to sound casual. She didn't miss a beat. Well, they didn't get one. Maybe they got lost in the mail. I sighed. Mom, I didn't invite them. Silence. A heavy, shocked pause. Then the explosion. What, Emily? How could you not invite your own family? Your siblings? What's wrong with you? I gripped the phone, trying to stay calm. They didn't invite me to their weddings, Mom. Not a single one. So I'm returning the favor. It's fair. She acted like I'd committed a crime. That was different. You were young. They didn't mean to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. Well, it hurt anyway, and now I'm done pretending it didn't. She launched into a guilt trip. Emily, you're being spiteful. Family is family. You don't just shut them out like this. What are people going to think? There it was, her favorite concern. What will people think? I cut her off. I don't care what people think, Mom. This is my wedding, and I'm only inviting people who care about me. They didn't care enough to include me in their big days, so I don't see why they deserve to be at mine. She hung up on me. I wasn't surprised. That night, the family group chat blew up. Rachel, fake as ever, started it. Hey Em, did something happen with the mail? We haven't gotten our invites yet. Then Chris, blunt as always. What's going on? Why aren't we invited? I stared at my phone, debating whether to reply. Part of me wanted to lay it all out, to tell them how much they'd hurt me over the years. But another part knew they wouldn't get it. They never had. So I said nothing, and left the chat on red. Tyler noticed I was quiet at dinner and asked what was wrong. I showed him the messages. He shook his head. You don't owe them an explanation, Emmy. They made their choices. Yeah, but, I trailed off. They're gonna make me out to be the bad guy. I know it. Let them, he said firmly. You know the truth. That's all that matters. The next day, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. I knew why they were there. Mom stormed in the second I opened the door. What are you thinking, Emily? Not inviting your own siblings to your wedding. What kind of person does that? I tried to stay calm, though my patience was thinning. Mom, I told you they didn't think I was important enough to include in their weddings, so I'm not including them in mine. Dad finally spoke, his voice stern. You're being childish, Emily. You're holding on to something that happened years ago. That's when I snapped. I was a child when they did it. Dad, I begged to be at their weddings, and they all shut me out. Don't talk to me about being childish when I was the one left crying at home 4 times. They didn't know what to say. Mom looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't let her guilt me this time. You can keep defending them, but I'm not changing my mind. If they cared about me, they would have shown it back then. They left, furious and frustrated. Over the next few days, my siblings' messages got nastier. Chris called me selfish. Rachel said I was ruining the family. Josh didn't bother sugarcoating it. You're being petty, Emily. Grow up. I didn't reply to any of them. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. One night, while I was scrolling through their messages, Tyler hugged me and said, I'm proud of you, for standing up for yourself. For the first time, I felt proud of myself, too. After the initial drama, I expected things to calm down. I figured they'd grumble to each other, maybe complain to distant cousins, and move on. That's how it usually went when my family didn't get their way. But I underestimated how big a deal they'd make of this. It started small. Rachel, of course, posted a passive-aggressive Facebook status. Family is forever, even when some people forget what that word means. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. Tyler, scrolling next to me on the couch, saw it and shook his head. What is she, 14? Basically, I muttered, trying to brush it off. I told myself it didn't matter. I knew the truth, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. But it still stung when my own sister publicly took shots at me. It didn't stop there. Over the next few days, jabs started appearing in our extended family group chat. I'd muted it long ago, but Tyler checked his phone one afternoon and said, Emily, you might want to see this. The messages were flying. Rachel, it's so sad when family prioritizes petty grudges over love. Chris, I just don't understand. I thought we were better than this. Then Mike, the self-proclaimed wise eldest. I never realized how much bitterness you've been holding on to, Emily. It's really sad. You're ruining relationships over something that happened years ago. My blood boiled. They didn't get it. They still didn't get it. They made it sound like I was blowing a minor issue out of proportion, as if they hadn't excluded me my entire life. I wanted to reply to list every single thing they'd done and call out their hypocrisy, but I knew arguing would only give them more ammunition. They'd twist my words into me being dramatic or unstable, whatever helped them avoid responsibility. Instead, I did the one thing they didn't expect. I left the group chat. That night, Mom called. I knew she'd heard about the group chat incident because she started yelling the second I answered. Emily, what is wrong with you? Hi, Mom, I said flatly. Don't start with that attitude, she snapped. Do you know what you've done? Your siblings are heartbroken. You're destroying this family. Heartbroken? I laughed bitterly. They ignored me my entire childhood, but now they're heartbroken? Give me a break. You're being so spiteful, she said. You've always been like this, holding grudges, making everything about you. That's when I lost it. I'm the one holding grudges? Mom, I was 10 when Mike got married. 10. I cried because I wanted to be there, and you all told me I didn't matter enough to be included. And it didn't stop there. It happened again and again. I begged to be at Rachel's wedding, and she told me no because it wouldn't be fair. That was years ago, she said dismissively. Yeah, and I'm still living with how it made me feel. You all decided I wasn't important enough back then. Why should you get a front row seat to my life now? She didn't have an answer. Instead, she tried to flip the script. This isn't about the weddings, Emily. This is about you pushing everyone away because you're bitter. Tyler's probably encouraging you, isn't he? I groaned. Mom, stop blaming Tyler. This has nothing to do with him. This is about me finally realizing I deserve better than to be treated like I don't matter. Her voice softened, playing the concerned mother. Emily, you don't understand. Family is all you'll have in the end. Friends and partners come and go, but family is forever. I took a deep breath. If family is forever, Mom, then why did mine treat me like I was invisible? I'm done chasing people who don't care about me. No, I said firmly, family is supposed to care about you, to love and support you. That's not what you've been to me. Mom started crying. Big dramatic sobs that I knew were more about guilt-tripping me than genuine sorrow. "You'll regret this one day, Emily," she said through her tears. "You'll see." "I don't think I will," I replied quietly before hanging up. Over the next week, things escalated. I blocked Rachel and Chris on social media because I couldn't handle their constant snide comments. Mom called Tyler twice, apparently hoping to talk sense into him. He didn't answer. Then Mike sent me a long email. Yes, an actual email about forgiveness and family unity, even quoting a Bible verse about letting go of anger. I didn't respond. Tyler and I sat down one night, and I vented. It's like they're determined to pretend I'm the problem. They don't see how messed up it is that they ignored me for years, and then flipped out when I finally stood up for myself. "You know what it is?" Tyler said. "They're not mad they weren't invited. They're mad they don't get to control you anymore." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. He was right. My whole life, my family treated me like an afterthought, someone they could dismiss when it suited them. Now that I was doing something for myself, something they couldn't control, they couldn't handle it. "They'll get over it eventually," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. Tyler's next words stuck with me. "Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, it's not your problem." He was right. For the first time, I realized I didn't owe my family anything. Not my time, not my attention, and certainly not an invitation to my wedding. A week later, Dad sent a short, guilt-laden text. "Emily, your mom isn't doing well. She's really upset about all this. Maybe you could reconsider?" I stared at it for a long time before replying. Maybe she should have thought about that before ignoring me all those years. I hit send, then blocked his number. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a mix of excitement and tension. I was thrilled to marry Tyler and have the day I dreamed of since I was a kid, but the drama with my family lingered like an unwelcome guest. My parents stopped calling directly, probably because I'd blocked Mom's number after her last meltdown, but that didn't stop others. My aunt called out of the blue. I hadn't spoken to her in years, so I was suspicious when her name popped up on my phone. "Emily, honey," she said in a sweet but condescending tone. "I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this. Family is family. It's not right to leave your siblings out of your wedding." I sighed, gripping the phone tighter. "Aunt Linda, it's not just about the wedding. This has been years in the making. I'm not changing my mind. But it's family," she pressed, as if that word fixed everything. "I'm sure they didn't mean to hurt you back then. Can't you just let it go and be the bigger person?" I closed my eyes, trying not to snap. Being the bigger person doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It's about knowing when to put yourself first. There was a pause, then a dramatic sigh. "Well, I just hope you don't regret this one day. You're going to miss your family, and they won't be there." I didn't say anything. I just hung up. The morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling a strange mix of peace and nerves. It wasn't the usual what if something goes wrong wedding jitters. It was more like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I knew my family wasn't invited, but I couldn't shake the feeling they'd try to insert themselves somehow. Tyler, being the amazing guy he is, refused to let me dwell on it. When I shared my worries as we got ready separately, he smiled and said, This day is about us. Nothing else matters. If anyone tries to ruin it, I'll personally escort them out." That made me laugh, and for the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. The venue was perfect, small, intimate, a garden surrounded by flowers, with twinkle lights strung through the trees and a little gazebo for our vows. I didn't want a giant elaborate wedding. I wanted something real, full of love, and that's exactly what it was. My closest friends were there, along with extended family who'd actually been kind to me over the years. It felt right. As I stood in front of the mirror, putting the final touches on my dress, my maid of honor, Jenna, walked in and grinned. "You look amazing, Em." "Thanks," I said softly, feeling a wave of emotions. Jenna sat on the couch, watching me. "Are you okay?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I'm just sad, I guess. Not about today. Today's perfect, but about the fact that my family isn't here." She frowned and leaned forward. "Emily, it's okay to feel that. Just because you made the right choice doesn't mean it doesn't hurt." Her words hit hard. I turned to her, tears welling up. I wanted them to care. You know, I wanted them to fight for me when I was a kid, and they never did. Jenna stood and hugged me tightly. You don't need their approval. You have people who love you. Focus on that. I nodded, taking a deep breath. She was right. Today wasn't about my family, it was about me and Tyler. When the ceremony started, I was so overwhelmed by its beauty that I forgot everything else. Standing at the end of the aisle, staring at Tyler, I thought, this is it. This is what happiness feels like. As I walked toward him, a sense of freedom washed over me. I wasn't the forgotten little sister anymore, the kid who begged to be included and got turned away. I was a bride, surrounded by people who truly loved me and wanted to see me happy. The vows were perfect. Tyler promised to love, protect, and stand by me, and I promised the same. By the time we said I do, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience, including mine. The reception was everything I'd hoped for. We laughed, ate, and danced until our feet hurt. My friends gave toasts filled with funny stories and heartfelt wishes. Tyler's parents, who'd always been kind to me, said they were proud to have me in their family. At one point, I slipped away from the crowd to take it all in, standing at the edge of the garden, looking at the twinkling lights and people laughing together. I felt so full. For years, I'd believed the lie my family fed me, that I didn't matter, that I wasn't important enough. But watching these people who truly cared about me, I realized I mattered to those who deserved to know me. Later, one of my cousins pulled me aside. Hey, Emily, I probably shouldn't say this, but I groaned. What is it now? She looked sheepish. Your mom and Rachel apparently threw some kind of dinner tonight, like an alternative to your wedding. I stared at her, then burst out laughing. Are you serious? She nodded. I know, it's pathetic. I just thought you should know. I shook my head, still laughing. That's fine. Let them throw their pity party. I hope the food's good. My cousin seemed surprised I wasn't upset, but honestly, I wasn't. If anything, it proved I'd made the right choice. My family had spent my life excluding me and justifying it. Now that I'd set a boundary, they couldn't handle it. At the end of the night, Tyler and I shared one last dance as everyone gathered around. As we swayed, I whispered, I'm so happy we did this. He smiled down at me. Me too, Em. This is just the beginning. For the first time, I believed it. My family wasn't there. They didn't get to see the best day of my life, but that was their loss, not mine. Surrounded by love and laughter, I had everything I'd ever needed, and none of it came from them. I thought the worst was over. After the wedding, the day had been perfect. Everything I'd hoped for and more. I felt like I'd finally moved on from my family's nonsense. I didn't miss them at the ceremony, or wonder what it would have been like if they'd been there. I was surrounded by people who loved me, and that was enough. But if there's one thing I've learned about my family, it's that they don't like being ignored. It's like they couldn't stand that I'd moved on without them. I was happy without them, so they decided to stir the pot one last time. It started with a message from Rachel, a week after the wedding. Of course it was Rachel. She'd always been the one to throw the first stone in family drama. Saw some pics from your wedding. I can't believe you had it in a garden. Looked casual, but I guess that's what you wanted. I stared at the message, stunned. She couldn't even pretend to be nice. It wasn't enough for her to leave me alone. She had to criticize something. I was tempted to fire back something snarky about how her wedding might have been fancier, but at least mine wasn't full of fake smiles and people who didn't care about me. But I stopped myself. I didn't owe her a response. A few days later, messages started pouring in from extended family I hadn't heard from in years. Apparently, Rachel, Mike, and Chris were on a campaign to paint me as the villain. Aunt Linda, the same one who'd tried guilt-tripping me before the wedding, sent another message. Emily, I don't know what happened between you and your siblings, but they're really hurt. Rachel says she tried to reach out and you're ignoring her. Maybe it's time to let go of the past. I sighed and rolled my eyes. How many times did I have to explain this? How many people did my siblings need to drag into this mess before they realized I wasn't budging? Tyler noticed my frustration and sat beside me. Another guilt trip? He asked, glancing at my phone. Yeah, Aunt Linda again. Says they're hurt, I replied. He snorted, hurt because they can't control you anymore. I smiled faintly. He wasn't wrong. I just don't get it. They ignored me for years. I begged to be included in their lives, and they shut me out. Now I'm the bad guy for setting boundaries? That's how it always goes, Tyler said softly. When you start protecting yourself, the people who hurt you are the first to cry about it. The real low point came a few days later when Mom showed up unannounced. It was a Sunday afternoon, and Tyler and I were having a lazy day, making brunch in pajamas and laughing over burnt pancakes. There was a knock at the door and I froze. I just knew it was her. Sure enough, I opened the door to find Mom standing there, looking as dramatic as ever. "Emily," she said, her voice dripping with that familiar tone of disappointment. "We need to talk." I sighed. "Mom, now isn't a good time." She didn't care. She pushed the door slightly, trying to step inside. Tyler appeared behind me, gently placing a hand on my shoulder for support. "Emily, please," she continued. "This has gone far enough. Your siblings are devastated. Do you really think this is how family should act?" I clenched my jaw, keeping my voice calm. "You don't get to show up here and lecture me, Mom. I invited the people who care about me to my wedding. They didn't make the cut, and that's their fault, not mine." Her face fell into that familiar look of disbelief, like she couldn't fathom me standing up to her. "You don't mean that. They love you, Emily. They're your family." "No, Mom," I said, my voice firm. "Family doesn't make you feel small. Family doesn't leave you out when you're a kid and then demand to be part of your life when it's convenient. I spent my entire life trying to prove I mattered to them, and they never cared. I'm done." She blinked, stunned into silence for once. I could tell she wanted to argue, but Tyler stepped forward, his voice gentle but strong. "I think it's time for you to leave," he said. Mom looked between us, her face a mix of anger and sadness. "You'll regret this, Emily," she said softly, like she was delivering a prophecy. "You'll miss us one day, and we won't be there." I met her eyes, unflinching. "No, Mom, I won't." Tyler shut the door behind her. For a moment, I just stood there, processing. I thought I'd feel guilty, but I didn't. I felt relief. The next day, I got a text from Chris. "Mom said she came to talk to you and you slammed the door in her face. Real mature, Emily. You've turned into someone I don't even recognize." I read it aloud to Tyler, who shook his head. "Block him. You don't need that." And I did. One by one, I blocked every sibling and relative who piled onto the guilt train. That day, I realized something crucial. I didn't owe them my time, my energy, or even an explanation. For years, they'd made me feel invisible. Now, I was taking control. The weeks that followed were quiet, the first time in a long time without constant messages and passive-aggressive comments. I could finally breathe. Tyler and I focused on settling into married life, decorating our little apartment, planning our future. One night, we were on the couch watching a cheesy movie, and Tyler turned to me. "Do you regret it at all, not having them at the wedding?" I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No. I thought I would, but I don't. I spent so long trying to earn their approval, and for what? I don't miss them. I don't miss feeling like I'm not good enough." He smiled and squeezed my hand. "Good, you deserve better." And he was right. I did deserve better. A month after the wedding, I got one final message from Rachel's number sent through a different phone since I'd blocked her. "You've destroyed this family, Emily. I hope you're happy." I stared at the screen for a second, then deleted it. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I was just done. Because I was happy. For the first time, I wasn't chasing their approval or begging for scraps of love and attention. I was surrounded by people who cared about me. And that was enough. It always had been.